Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Deborah Peters and this is the Deborah Peters Show. This is a show that is all about consciousness. Consciousness is where you are in alignment with your higher self, you're connected to the God force within you, and you run your life from that place, not looking outside of you for validation or direction. And we cover 5 main topics. And we focus on giving you the tools and bringing experts onto the show that can help you. And those different areas are health, wealth, relationships, business, and self-expression. And today I have a very special guest. We've been rolling around the calendar for some time now to make this happen because she's an extremely busy person. Her name is Dr. Debra Muth, and she is from Waukesha, Wisconsin. She's the authority in men and women's health, anti-aging, executive performance, and the list goes on and on. She's a naturopathic physician, and she's also a nurse practitioner with just a lifetime of experience and training. And so welcome to the show today, Dr. Debra. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to hear what we're going to cover in this episode.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm excited to be here and have our conversation. We've had some great conversations up until now, so I can't wait for this conversation.
Yeah, and we can take it a little further. You know, as we were waiting for showtime, we were kind of chatting about how, and this probably is a good place to start, how in society we have these structures, programs, belief systems that say when you're a certain age, then you should live a certain way, you should look a certain way, your body should function a certain way, and that there's really nothing you can do about it. And that basically, as you go through life and the number increases, the distance between your day of birth and where you are now, the gap gets bigger, that you should expect to be on a decline. And, you know, this is the thing that gets to me is that you should expect to get some kind of disease that you check off the planet because of. Mm-hmm. And all of that really, to me, never really sat well. I mean, since I was a kid, like that just didn't connect to me. Like I'm very intuitive, and I was like, wow, I would ponder it, you know, and I'd be thinking like, that just makes no sense. Yeah. And it implies that you have zero authority over your existence. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that coming from what you do and the service that you provide to humanity?
You know, I think it is so true. In our American culture, we believe that you hit whatever that magic number is for you. It might be 50, it might be 60, it may be 70. And at that point, there's certain things we can't do anymore, or we shouldn't do anymore. And there's other cultures that don't think like that. They don't believe what we believe. Right. And they have people that live 110, 120, and they're still living on their own. They're still doing all their own things. And one day they just don't wake up. It's not like they're given a death sentence to this disease that you're going to get, and you're going to end up in a nursing home, and you know, somebody's going to take all your money and all those crazy things we go through. It doesn't have to be like that. It is only in our culture that we subscribe to that type of thought process. And I have patients that come in every day that see somebody else. And one that I can think of last week, she came in and her doctor diagnosed her with osteoporosis. And she said, oh my gosh, you have to go home and don't do anything. Don't run the vacuum. Don't take the out, because you could fracture something and die. And it's this fear. Everything is fear-based here. And I said, well, if you do that, you're going to sit on the couch and you're going to put on 50 pounds and you're going to develop heart disease and die from that. You're never going to die from your bone loss. You're going to die from something else because you're not doing what your body is meant to do.
Right.
And I think this is the thought process that we have, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Indeed. I mean, it's a really deep program. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like probably all of my life, I have fought it in some fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly around birthdays. This is just so my pet peeve, when you get these messages about hang in there, you're lucky to be alive and you're getting old. And I really feel like 100% of the time that's some kind of a projection from how they feel about themselves. And that's, all you have to do is turn on the television and see pharmaceutical adverts and all of the, and it pounds at you constantly. I don't watch television, but recently I've been traveling a lot. I've been remote working across the US, and recently I turned on a television in an Airbnb, just curious, and it was like 5 minutes of ads, and 90% of them were pharmaceutical companies with this huge laundry list of all the side effects, but yet you should buy this. And I don't want to attack the allopathic medical model. That's not my point about today. Right. But it really is a deep, deep, deep program. And the more one buys into it, the more it becomes your reality. I mean, everything I stand for is that what you think, you create. What you think, you feel. What you feel, you vibrate. And what you vibrate, you become. So wouldn't that be the same for decline and
absolutely. Absolutely. I remember growing up as a kid, and our grandmothers at the time seemed really old, but now when you look back, you're like, oh, they really weren't that old.
No, but they looked older.
They did. They looked much older than we do now. But every time we went to see my grandmother, she was always dying of a heart attack. Every time. And she'd end up in the hospital, and it was an attention-seeking thing, right? And I realize that now, but back then we didn't know. Like, I didn't know. My parents probably knew. But I remember thinking, oh my gosh, what is wrong? And then she finally died at 98 years old in an old age home, simply because she was old, right? Her body just gave up, but she never died of the heart attack she thought she was having all the time. And I think about that because I think it's easy for us to think of our age and then think of how we're supposed to feel. Oh, I turned 50, so I'm supposed to have that pooch now. Oh, I turned 60, I'm not supposed to be able to play tennis, or whatever it is. And we put that into our own head, or we allow somebody else to put that into our head. And it's, I think, worse when we allow somebody else to do that for us. But
for sure, we perpetuate it.
Yes. It's so,
and it's not true. It's not true. It's fascinating to me because if you take the road less traveled and you don't subscribe to that, it kind of creates, like, it can be lonely at the top.
It can be.
Because then, I have friends that are always complaining about their bodies, and in a variety of ways, from, I'm gaining weight, it's hormones, can't stop it, which we're going to get into today. My body doesn't function the way it used to. I can't work out like I did. I'm tired all the time, like brain function and all the stuff we're going to talk about today. And the difference is that they, at some point, and I think a lot of people do this, I'm not going to say everybody, but a lot of people, as their life changes and they take on more responsibilities, they get married, they have debt from buying properties and vehicles, they have children, and that's an expensive endeavor. They give up the health regime they had before those changes took place, out of a belief that there isn't time, maybe not wanting to spend the money, maybe both.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really what the issue is. It's not that your body can't be fit. It's not that your body can't exercise and be vital and vibrant. It's that you
Mm-hmm.
stop doing those activities, and whatever if you don't use it, you lose it.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And I think you're absolutely right. We have this time crunch in our world. We work more than we play, and we work more than we set aside time for taking care of us, whether it's meal planning or exercising or leisure time, just to
Yeah.
do nothing, right? And all those things are really important to us. But when we stop taking care of ourselves is when dis-ease comes in. And once we start focusing on ourselves and putting that time where it belongs, eating right, exercising, taking supplements, working with people like yourself or myself to get the most out of their life, is when all of those dis-ease symptoms start to go away. And the longevity of your life then is endless.
That's a great point. The longevity of your life is endless.
Mm-hmm.
And that really is, I feel, since we had the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
it's really pushed people to wake up to that concept that may have never considered that to be a possibility before. And more people, I think, are becoming aware of that. What's interesting is that to me, it's fascinating because I think, and I'd like you to let me know your thoughts on this. So if we keep telling our body through self-talk, through
Mm-hmm.
images, through feelings, how we feel about ourselves, then our body is going to take on that belief, and the cells are going to start to shut down and turn off. 2 weeks ago, I spent a weekend in the Blue Ridge Mountains and on this acreage, beautiful property. It was just like miles of trees and the lakes and the rivers. I went kayaking. I went, whitewater rafting. I went water skiing. Everything was just lush and phenomenal. And the lady and her husband that rented me the place, amazing people, just kind, generous, loving people. And I wanted to do like a little group picture because they were like my new family for the weekend.
Yeah.
And she would not get in front of a camera.
Wow.
She refused because she dislikes herself so much and dislikes how she looks so much that she refused to do that. And I was thinking after, it's like, what have we done through our propaganda, through our marketing? What have we done to ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
We're all connected. So it's not us versus them. We're doing it to ourselves. And somewhere she's been programmed and conditioned that she shouldn't like how she looks.
Mm-hmm.
And that has to be turning off the functionality of cells. It has to be.
Yeah, it has to be. The brain is connected to the rest of the body. Our feelings they're not a disconnect. We are all one. So when we have all that negative self-talk about ourselves, whether it's out loud or it's in our head, it is creating cellular damage for us. And, once we create cellular damage, that's when aging starts. And so all those years of us being raised to believe that we're supposed to look a certain way, our hair is supposed to be a certain way, our body type is supposed to be a certain way, our breast size is supposed to be a certain way. All of that is just crap. I mean, it's just programming. And if we succumb to it, and we do because we buy the stuff that they're advertising to us to make us look better, so they think that they're getting to us, and they are in a lot of respects. If we're spending billions of dollars on their products,
I know.
Then they just keep throwing more and more ads at us, and we keep thinking less and less of ourselves. And it is not a healthy place for us to be. There are studies that can prove that it changes our brain waves, it changes our cellular age, it changes all of that for us.
Yeah. The external validation through acceptance, by people we don't know and we may never meet when it comes to social media. Like, you know, there's no relationship, there's no personality connection, no love center, or nothing. And to me, that's a really good indication of how we can turn off our body's natural ability to function in homeostasis. And when we turn that off through how the relationship we have with ourselves, like in the beginning, when I was saying, you know, this show focuses on health, wealth, relationships, business, and self-expression, especially the relationship you have with yourself, because then that's going to impact everything. It's going to impact your self-expression. It's going to impact your health, your money, how you show up in business. So when we turn that down, it's like turning off a gas stove. And if we keep at it long enough, it's like killing the pilot light. So I was going to take this somewhere. And that was when we do that process, it's like let me say this. We have an innate divine blueprint for perfect health. We do. And it's just how we treat ourselves and relate to ourselves that turns that off. So what can you say about that innate divine blueprint for perfect health?
Yeah. You know, I would say this, and I heard somebody else say this a couple of days ago, and it just really stuck with me, is that when we look back to the Bible stories that we have, the people in the Bible lived to be thousands of years old, and they were having babies at, 900 years old. And here we are at 50 saying, oh my God, I can't do something. And I think when we look at what's changed in our environment, all of the things, whether it's been our spirituality or the toxins that we're exposed to, or how we've been brainwashed, because that's what I believe it's been from the TV and the news medias and advertising and all the industry stuff that we have to think about ourselves a certain way. I think those are the things that have changed us in evolution and have made our lifespan shorter and shorter.
Good point.
And if we can get back to having more of a spiritual connection to whatever that is, whatever your higher power is, you have that spiritual connection and you have a divine connection with what we put in our body, instead of just saying, I'm running through the drive-through and I'm putting something in me because I'm hungry, versus I want to have that true connection because it's a living thing that I'm putting in my body, or it was a living thing that I'm putting in my body. Yes. When we have those connections, that's where it makes all the difference in how we're actually feeding our bodies nutritional things and allowing our bodies to heal the most. It's when we disconnect from all of that we start creating more and more complications in our body.
Exactly. So it's being mindful of how we approach ourselves, including our sustenance. So shopping, for example, like this all comes down to time again. And I think we're into this rut about this lack of time thing. But shopping, and as you shop, you consciously choose. Yeah. And you educate yourself before you go on what it is your body needs. So then the step before that would be listening to what your body's telling you. And if there's red flags, find out what food you need. Like that saying, let your food be your medicine and let your medicine be your food. Listen to what your body's saying and then shop accordingly with love and appreciation, just like when you pay your bills. Thank you, right? And then food prep it from the same place. Thank you for nourishing me. And then when you eat it, enjoy the process of consuming the food. And if none of that clicks for you, you need to take a big step back and completely reevaluate how you see yourself in the world. Because if you don't have time for any of that, I mean, that's staying alive. That's staying alive and healthy. if you don't have time for that, then basically what you're doing is you're saying, I don't have time to be alive.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the gratitude is huge in everything that we do, being grateful, even for the things that are a struggle, because we're learning something out of it, or maybe it's preventing us from getting someplace 5 minutes faster and we might have been in an accident, or it's the gratitude that, hey, this happened to me, but now I've learned X. And because I've learned this, now I can help share that with someone else and my body will function better. And if whatever happened to precipitate that didn't happen, I wouldn't have learned this, and I would have went on with life and not sharing and caring and spreading the word of it. I mean, I think it's easy for us to get frustrated, and we all do it. Get frustrated in the moment that something's not going on our time frame, because time is so delicate for everyone. But we have to take that step back and take a breath and go, okay, why did this happen? Why am I learning this? Why is this setting me back? And then be grateful for it. Like you said, I love the idea of being grateful that you pay your bills. I have the income to pay the bills. I'm grateful that I have electricity. I'm grateful that I have whatever, and I think more times all we do is complain. And there are studies that show the more negativity we have, the faster our cells die. And so when we're always caught up in that negative moment, we're actually aging our bodies. And so the more we can be positive, the longer our cells will live, and therefore the longer we will live and have better prosperity in it because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it is really all about creating your own reality. And we do that with every thought. It's not, it's in the micro doses. It's in the little things. It's not in the, okay, I skipped a workout thing. It's in the whole self-talk and belief system that led up to skipping that workout, that it's in the micro, what am I trying to say? It's like, it's so easy to shift our focus and the direction that we're headed just through the tiny things, like walking down the street and appreciating a tree, or a bumblebee that's pollinating, or just the tiniest of things, The sun is up. There's a breeze in my hair, whatever. It just break it down to the tiny step.
Yeah.
So as people so we're kind of doing two things. One, we're educating people that through the relationship that they have with themselves, their mindset, it has a physical and physiological impact on their body, that all that can be shifted and changed. I think we really covered a lot about the mindset part of it. What can be done because all of this affects the brain syndicate, right?
Right.
Pineal, pituitary, hippocampus.
Yep.
What else does it impact? Is it a thyroid thing too?
It is. So it affects our hormones directly, both thyroid and female and male hormones. And women and men have both female and male hormones. So it's just the driver, which one is the prominent driver. But when all of these things start happening, the more stress that we put on our body, whether it's physical and or emotional, spiritual, mental, whatever it is we're doing that's causing stress for us, it will definitely start to decline our hormonal system. We see this a lot in people with chronic infection. They will have a premature fall of their hormones and put them into menopause, or what we call andropause for men. And I've seen 30-year-olds with absolutely no hormone function because their body's been so stressed, both physically and emotionally. And that can tank the cognitive function. So oftentimes people will come in with one symptom thinking it's from something, and it's not. It's coming from something completely different. But I think for a lot of us in the aging world, we're all afraid of our mind, right? We don't want to lose our mind. We don't want to lose our independence. And there's been a lot of studies done to see what's causing this. Well, first of all, it's inflammation, it's toxins, it's food, it's a lot of that, it's hormones. we do know that men will lose cognitive function a little bit earlier than women will, and at a little bit higher rate than women will as well. So men have to be on top of their game a little
Sure.
bit earlier and a little bit more than women do, I think. We all need to be on top of it, but men should especially be looking at this. And especially those men that are in the executive world, you know, they're in the boardroom. They need to be able to flip those words and remember those things and be on top of it. And in doing things from an anti-aging aspect will allow you to stay in the game as long as you want and be able to function. You don't have to lose that ability. We just have to sometimes push it up and prop it up with a few things to make your body less inflamed so it can work the way it's supposed to.
So, okay, you said a lot there. So stress, but there can be good stress, like a workout would be
Absolutely.
good stress, right?
Yep.
So you can prop it up. I guess inflammation, it sounds to me like, is the bad guy here.
Yeah.
Once you start developing inflammation in your body, things can go south really bad.
Yep.
So what are some examples of some of the issues that inflammation will cover or cause?
Yeah. So inflammation can cause a variety of symptoms. As we know, most of it is going to be joint pain or muscle pain. That's the first thing that people will recognize as inflammation. But when we get brain inflammation, that's where we start to have word finding issues, cognitive. We might not be able to multitask as well as we did before, or we're not remembering our calendar as much. Maybe we can't put a sentence together, or maybe those things you did over and over again, thousands of times, you could do it in your sleep. All of a sudden you're like, I don't remember that. You know, what am I doing with this? Or what's that password? It's things like that that we're going to start to see issues with when there's brain inflammation. And that's where people are going to get the most frightened. You know, the joint pain, they're like, I did too much. I was a weekend warrior. I'll take a little Advil. I'll be fine tomorrow. And whether that's true or not, we can argue, but it's the brain inflammation that I think really starts to get our attention, because that's the one that says, okay, this could change my life forever. What if I can't work? What if I can't remember things? What if I'm getting dementia? And we do a lot of cognitive testing in our office where we can see, is somebody's cognitive ability declining because they truly have dementia or Alzheimer's disease, or is it declining because of stress, depression, anxiety, something along that lines? And I will tell you, for those people that are in that range of 40 to 60, the majority of them, I'd say 9 out of 10, it's coming from one of those other stressors that's happening. So there's not true decline yet, but if we don't change things, there will be true decline. And so the quicker we can intervene, the better off we are.
So most of my clients are male CEOs of mid-sized companies. And I have some clients that I've worked with on and off for 20 years. And I've watched them go through a decline, let's say, where, you know, that they acknowledge too, where they're like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm not the same at this and this anymore. And I'm always on them to go get their hormones checked and, you know, talk to someone about some HRT, some hormone replacement therapy. And it's interesting to me because then they'll go to their regular physician and are told, you're fine. Your labs are normal for your age and you're good. I even had one client whose physician told him that if he started, he could start using HRT, but if he started, he'd never be able to stop, and that would be an issue. And I mean, these guys are under a lot of pressure. The stakes are really high in their responsibilities, and they're just unhappy because their brain doesn't fire the way it used to. And they still have loads of potential ahead of them where they could be really thriving, you know? So where's this inflammation coming from? Is it bad diet, like lots of booze and cocktails, lack of sleep? Like, what's causing this?
Yeah, usually it's diet, alcohol, lack of sleep, not taking the right supplements to calm things down. It's usually environmental driven. Once we get to a particular age, like right around 45 or 50, some of it though can come from that decline in hormones. And it's interesting because traditional docs will look at a testosterone level for a guy and say, oh yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
It's 200. Okay. Let's talk about optimal. Optimal testosterone levels should be between 600 and 800. I have 20-year-olds that have a testosterone level these days of 200. And a lot of that is coming from our chemical exposures that is just tanking everything. And so in order for guys to be at the top of their game, they really want that testosterone to be at an optimal level, which is 600 to 800. I've seen doctors tell patients whose testosterone level's at 150 that it's okay, you're 80, it's okay.
No, it blows my mind.
Yeah, like, no, it's not. And the question that I always say is, well, is the doctor taking something if his testosterone's 150?
Right.
And we have to look at cholesterol. Cholesterol reduction in this country has created a lot of these problems as well, because we want cholesterol levels. If people have an abnormal level, some docs want it below 100. Well, guess where we make all of our hormones from? Cholesterol.
Wow.
So if we don't have a normal cholesterol level, or at least a cholesterol of 150, we can't make hormones. And so these people who are concerned about their heart, dropping these cholesterol levels so low, they're going to have cognitive issues. They're going to have hormonal issues. They're going to have erectile issues simply because we're getting their cholesterol way too low. And there is no study that shows that having a cholesterol of 80 or 150 is going to put you at risk for a heart attack. There's actually a lot of studies that show the opposite, that low cholesterol can create heart issues for people.
Sure.
So yeah, and this is where there's a lot of misinformation, and unfortunately it comes from the pharmaceutical companies for a variety of reasons. But the docs are well-meaning. They're taught what they're taught, and they're sharing the information they know. They just don't know the anti-aging aspects of things. And so working with somebody like yourself or myself that understands this can optimize. We want optimizing levels. We don't want bare bones levels. That's just not going to work for you if you want to stay in the game until you're 75 or 80.
Yeah. And so what is the deal with accepting these lower levels of hormones when it comes to just a regular checkup or blood draw?
You mean accepting them, like what will happen if somebody just accepts them?
What's the purpose behind that? I mean,
the purpose?
Yeah.
A lot of it is socialized medicine. For those people who don't understand that we do have a socialized system here, we're just all paying for it.
Right.
But there is rationed care. And so the large hospital systems have policies and protocols in place that their practitioners have to follow. And so if the AMA says that this is where the level is supposed to be at, that's what they have to follow, regardless of how much evidence we can prove from the NIH or PubMed or any other organization that says, no, it should be here. They're not allowed to follow that. They have guidelines, they have to follow them. Matter of fact, if they have a patient whose cholesterol is at 250 and the person doesn't want to take cholesterol meds, you will often find that after several appointments, they'll be fired from the practice because the practitioner actually gets sanctioned for not having enough people in compliance with their protocols. And so their whole role is to make sure that you're following the protocols, whether it's in the best interest of you or not. They have to have so many patients in line with those protocols.
Amazing. You know, you said something, rationed care.
Yeah.
So I've been hearing all these reports about, you know, let's say you end up in a hospital and you're at an advanced age that you might not get the medical care you need because you are at this advanced age,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't want to spend the money or the time or the resources on that.
Yep.
And instead the care would go to someone that's younger. Is that,
Mm-hmm.
that's insanity.
Yeah, that's actually what's happening. And it's been happening for quite a while. And most of it is brought under the idea that, well, your insurance doesn't cover this, so we can't offer it to you. But the patient's never offered to pay cash for the service either.
Right.
So if their insurance doesn't cover it, unless you can find somebody that will offer you the service for cash, you just walk away thinking that you can't get it.
That you can't get it. And so when you're buying the insurance, you have to really know how to read that policy to know how
Yep.
far into your lifespan care is being provided under the insurance policy.
Yeah, absolutely. And what they'll cover and what they will not, and how much they'll cover. So you'll often see people who have really good insurance coverage can get, for instance, cancer treatment till they die. They're never taken off of it, and they want them to continue to do it whether the cancer's gone or not. And it's because they have good care in part from their insurance. And there are doctors that will continue to do this because they think it's in the best interest of the patient. But if the patient's insurance no longer paid, they wouldn't be getting the care. And then that's when people start looking at alternative care, either outside of the country or alternative medicine, because they can't get the care that they want anymore because it's not covered by their insurance.
Fascinating. Wow, this is a rabbit hole we could go down for a while.
We could.
So what about, I wanted to ask about this. I made a note. What about estrogen dominance in men? I can see that I'm not a physician,
Mm-hmm.
but I can see it. I can see it in men.
Yeah.
Just from a layman's perspective, what's up with this?
Mm-hmm. Part of it is environmental. So there are a lot of estrogen disruptors, is what we call them, in our environment. Oftentimes we'll find them in milk. We'll find them in other chemical driven things. They're synthetic estrogens that we're getting exposed to all the time. So that's in part what does it. But then as men age and their testosterone declines, they turn more of that testosterone into estrogen. That's why you start seeing more of the midsection belly fat for them. They get softer breast tissue, or what we call gynecomastia, where they actually start developing large breast tissue that's soft. They'll start crying more easily. They're more sensitive. And that's all a sign that they're getting that estrogen dominance. And it's not a good thing for men because it increases their risk for heart disease and prostate disease. And so getting that estrogen out of that body fat tissue is huge.
And is that diet, or is that through estrogen blockers? Like is it a combination?
Yeah, I would say both. Part of it's looking at your environment, making sure you get a lot of those chemicals that you clean with out of your environment, use more natural chemicals, looking at your food, and even animal proteins and things like that. A lot of our commercial animals are injected with steroids and hormones to make them grow faster so they can take them to slaughter faster.
Yeah.
And that saves the farmer from having to spend a lot of money on prepping them and getting them ready for that. But then we consume all of those excess hormones in our milk, in our animal proteins, things like that. So getting clean products that are not injected with steroids is a big deal. So we look at all of that, and then looking at other aspects of what's happening inside your own body. The more body fat you have, the more likely you are to hold estrogen in that body fat, and you're not moving it out like you should.
Yeah. So I think that, I'm a big fan of, I grew up on a farm, and we had a couple hundred head of cattle, Hereford cattle.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, we were so far from town that we had our own fridge and our own meds in there for emergencies with our cattle.
Yep.
In terms of the feed, I remember when the feed started coming toward the industry with animal products in it,
Yeah.
and I remember there was a dramatic shift between grain finishing an animal like a steer for autumn slaughter, for example, to then these alternative feeds had animal products in them. And that was a that was a big issue. I think that was a turning point. And then the factory farming, where, you know, the small farm, the small ranch, like the family stuff, was basically hard to even find. And I mean, that's a tricky part today. So I did notice that there's now an allowance for grass-fed beef to be GMO. So you have to really hand pick, like you got to go right to the rancher. I just did this yesterday. I found a rancher in my area that is non-GMO, organic, like all of it, grass finished. And I asked him point blank, you know, and so I'm meeting him tomorrow to pick up some steaks. Last winter, some friends of mine and I got together and we ordered in a big order of beef from different cuts of beef from Montana and had it shipped to California. You know, it costs, well, it doesn't cost more than buying the organic stuff at the store. I promise you that. And it's a better quality. But it takes time. It takes energy. You have to want to put healthy stuff into your body. And when you're eating in restaurants a lot, all that stuff is, I'm sorry to the restaurant industry, but it's processed.
It is.
And you have zero control over what's in that food.
You do. It's tough. And, you know, with a lot of your listeners that are executives, they're eating out a lot.
They are. Lots of dinners,
they're
lots of lunch.
Lunch, dinners. And so you may not have as much control over that food, but you do have then control over everything else that you do. And being knowledgeable about these things. So what you eat at home is different. And then you may need to do a little bit more supplementation to eliminate those toxins that you're getting exposed to all the time. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom, but you might have to do a little bit more to get that out, just because your lifestyle is the way it is and it's not going to change, right? You can't just order in organic grass-fed meat to the restaurant for just your party. So, you can pick different restaurants and things like that. That could be helpful. That can reduce that load wherever you can. But just being cognizant, I think, of it is huge.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So just, we've got a few minutes left. So just a little bit on HRT itself. Obviously, everything is done with regular blood labs, right? Where you're constantly monitoring.
Yeah, most of it can be done with regular blood labs. If there's a high deductible insurance, saliva is just less expensive and easier sometimes. So it can be done that way too. And we can get really good results out of both. And then we prescribe to using bioidentical hormone replacement, meaning that the molecular structure of a hormone that we use for, like testosterone, for instance, is molecularly the same as what's in your body. In the synthetic world, they start out with that molecular structure that's the same, but then they have to change it so they can patent it. Sure. When we do hormones, it goes to a specialty pharmacy called a compounding pharmacy, and they will make up that hormone in a very specific dose for you. So not everybody's going to have the same dose. It depends on how much you have, what your lifestyle is like, what your goals are, things like that. And then testosterone is typically applied either topically or by injection. Don't ever let anybody give it to you orally because it can cause heart issues for you.
Sure.
But injection and topically work very, very well. And it's easy to do. And, it doesn't take much to monitor once we get you on a good plan. It's literally like once or twice a year that we're looking at it. And that's about it.
Well, that's fantastic. So when it comes to HRT, you just keep measuring whether it's saliva or blood, keep monitoring it throughout the year. It may come in the form of creams or injectables.
Yep.
Where's the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, so you can reach me at serenityhealthcarecenter.com. That's our website. You can either send an email and contact us that way. You can certainly call the old-fashioned way, and you can text. You can get a hold of us anyway these days. But that's how you can reach us. And my team and I would love to help you. We really enjoy doing this part of our practice. It's exciting for us. And we love to stay on top of the new things, peptides and bioidentical hormones and all of the things that are available from an anti-aging standpoint.
Yeah, I remember when we were chatting, we were talking about peptides. Maybe you can just give a quick overview on that, because peptides are very popular now.
Oh, peptides are huge right now. And I think they're going to become bigger, although the FDA is trying to remove them again. They remove everything that works. But peptides are great things. So they're precursors, and they're made from amino acids, and our amino acids are things that we get from our protein sources. And so we can direct a very specific peptide for whatever it is we're looking to do. So if somebody's really hesitant about using testosterone, there are peptides like kisspeptin that we can use to drive the hormone production without specifically delivering testosterone. And there's peptides we can use for inflammation and tissue repair and cognitive function. So there are a lot of different peptides that we can use to target very specific things we want to fix.
That's fantastic. Oh my God, you're a wealth of information. And I've loved having you on my show. Please come back, and we can bring more information to people, because it's really just about being informed. When you think about how inundated people are with advertisements, that there's only one way to go through this life, and that is, sick, disease, and dying,
yes,
with side effects from all the drugs you pump into your body. This is a whole other, it's a whole other reality. So
yeah.
Thank you. Give your URL one more time.
Yeah, it's serenityhealthcarecenter.com.
And you can work remotely with people?
Yes, we work remotely with people, and we can work with your provider and just kind of augment what they're already doing. So there's lots of ways that we can work together.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Okay. So Dr. Deborah Muth from Waukesha, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I got it right.
You got it right.
Thank you for being on my show today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Hang on for a minute, and I'm going to say goodbye to you once I run some music here. And listen up, everybody. Today is an extended special edition episode. My next guest is Anthony Sabio. He's CIA, Secret Service, counterterrorism expert, and United States Marine. You're going to want to stick around for this one. We're going to do a deep dive into that. So I'll see you guys real soon. Hang in there. Don't hang up, everybody. Awesome. Okay, so it looks like we're still running live. I don't have any way to change that. I'm going to send you an email.
Okay.
Yeah. And then let's get you scheduled for a second episode. I love it.
Sounds great. Happy to.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a blessed day. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. You too, my dear. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
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 All right, everybody. Give me just a second, and we're going to get Anthony up here. I'm going to grab a glass of water. We've got 2 minutes till showtime, and I shall see you shortly. Hi, Anthony. How's it going?
Hi, how you doing?
I'm really good. Stoked about having you on today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Well, thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, so we're going to do a deep dive. So everybody that's just dialing in, this is Anthony Sabio. He's CIA, Secret Service, United States Marine. Thank you for your service. And a counterterrorism expert. And look, let's not, beat around the bush. We all know that President Trump's home was raided by the FBI, and it's fascinating to me. I want to dig into that. Whether you're a Trump fan or love him or hate him, I don't care. This is for every American. This is for every human being on the planet, because America, this is how I see America. America is the land of the free because she became that through the efforts of people that were sick and tired of living a life that was hard and full of tyranny and double standards and poverty, limitation, lack, suffering, abuse. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And when you think of every country in the world, I have this picture of people coming to this side of the pond, to this side of the Atlantic. And there's America and there's Canada. Now, Canada did not become a free sovereign nation. Canada remained under the Queen.
Yep.
And so that never shifted entirely. It's been a socialist country from the get-go. Whereas America was all about the land of the free, the American dream. You can come here with nothing and become whatever you want to become. And so now we've got a major federal law enforcement agency raiding a former president's residence, confiscating his passports. And I mean, the question that begs asking is, where does that lead us?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. And there's a lot to unpack with this. You talk about, Canada and the United States and where our roots are from. And it's really, the Constitution was first made. And then after that, the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights gave us, the individuals, the people, the safeties from tyrannic government, overreaching government.
Yeah.
And the founding fathers were smart with this because they looked at where the Revolutionary War came from. It came from the fact that we were being oppressed. We had no rights. Search and seizure was just rampant. If the British government felt that you may be a conspirator against the crown, they went right into your business, to your home, and found and looked for anything. The rule of law was pretty much you are guilty, and they're going to find something to make you guilty.
That's right.
And that's why they protect us. That's why the founding fathers protect us with the Bill of Rights. It was so critical during that time, and they're so forward thinking. And then now, if you look at it, how do we get from where the founding fathers tried to protect us to where we're at now, having overreach in government, going to as far as raiding the house of a president, a former president of the United States, still has that right as a president of the United States. And it goes beyond my mind because there's a lot of tactical issues there. Now, the president wasn't there, but there is a Secret Service detail maintaining his house, the premises. Right. So now you have FBI coming in with guns. You have Secret Service there with guns. You're putting guys in a bad situation where it doesn't have to be. And if you really look at the timeline of everything, the timeline goes, January 2021, dozen boxes containing documents and memoirs and other stuff was sent from the White House to Mar-a-Lago by staffers. The rest of 2021, National Archives, NARA, reached out and said some of those documents may contain items in there that the National Archive needs to have back. All right. January 2022, National Archives receives 15 boxes. So right there, you're showing a whole year of compliance, trying to get this right back to National Archives.
Well, that's not talked about in the media.
Yeah. February 18th. Archivist Donald Fierro informs the White House Oversight Committee that classified materials found in the 15 boxes contacts DOJ. Now let's kind of unravel this David Fierro. David Fierro was the same person during the Hillary Clinton emails that told to Senator Grassley that he found nothing substantial to send to DOJ to investigate this. The same person that went ahead right before he retired in April 2022 goes out to the DOJ and says Donald Trump has classified materials or could have more classified materials. The spring of 2022, Trump aides are interviewed by the DOJ and the FBI. June 23rd, 2022, the DOJ and FBI goes to his residence and they go over all the documents. They go over everything else that they're still looking for in the storage area. The only thing that they did in June 8th, 2022, the DOJ counterintelligence chief just suggests to put a better locking system on a storage facility that's housing all these materials that they want back. Okay, June 22, 2022, Trump organization receives and complies with subpoena for surveillance videos. Surveillance videos looking at the storage facility, everything coming in and out.
Sure.
August 5th, the U.S. magistrate issues a sealed warrant. And then August 8th, obviously, plainclothes FBI agents enter Mar-a-Lago and spend 9 hours. Now, they knew where the information that they wanted, the boxes they wanted. They knew exactly where it was. But they decided to check the bedroom, crack into a safe, go into Melania Trump's wardrobe. And it just came out now that the warrant states that they had the ability to look for any documents going from 2016 until 2021. That means it was completely efficient expedition looking for stuff. They weren't going after those archived documents.
Right. That's a conflict right there.
And if they knew, if they wanted, they're saying that it's classified material, TSSCI. They knew where it was. They could have got it at any time. They could have told them to turn it over.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so hold that thought. We'll pick it back up there. Mm-hmm. I just want to chunk up a little bit for just a second because we're really in the weeds with detail here. And there's, I want to just kind of back up for 1 minute. So we as human beings have a life force within us that I call God.
Yes.
That moves me through life, that guides me through life, that protects me through life, that is the spark in my heart, that is the gift, plural, talents, desires for expression, the ability to be of service to humanity. All of that to me is my relationship to God. And it seems to me that the whole part of being alive is to function from that place where we're not doing it all alone. There's something within us, our creator, that is moving us through our existence. And without that awareness, without the ability to think for ourselves, to tune in through prayer or whatever methodology you want to use to that God force, to be on this planet and experience the freedom, the joy, and the self-expression, then there's really no point in being here. Because that's the whole driving force, right? And we come into a body, the body's a vehicle, and we move through life on the planet, and we have experiences, and we discover what we don't want, we discover what we do want. But at the end of the day, it's all about expressing ourselves and bringing forth our gifts and talents to benefit the expansion of the universe. The universe is always expanding. And so then the whole purpose behind, and this is the big picture, the whole purpose behind, the whole reason, the motivation for for the founding fathers and the people that immigrated here in the beginning of the day to come to America and create America. And by the way, sitting down and signing the having the Bill of Rights and creating the Constitution was actually committing treason against the king, which was, worthy of death. And they did it anyway. And I just feel like that has to be said, because what this feels like to me, and again, I don't care if you hate Donald Trump or love Donald, I don't care. By the way, I grew up hating the guy my whole childhood, but that's another conversation. The thing is that this is a contradiction to that, because the purpose of creating this country was to have checks and balances of what could go on and what couldn't go on. So we didn't just create another kingdom where you have a dictator.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I had to get that out, because I think there's going to be a lot of people that have a lot of opinions about this. But if when you get right down to the dial it right down to the foundation, that's the foundation, and everything off of that needs to be calibrated from there.
Yeah, you are perfectly 100% correct with that. It's the moral compass of our country. The reason why our country is made is to make sure the checks and balances. And I have friends still in Secret Service and FBI and CIA, and I feel for them working in this type of environment. I saw firsthand when I was in the federal government, the bureaucracy that's happening, the things are happening more towards the political sense versus what's best for the country. And those FBI agents, they took an oath. They oath to defend the country.
Yeah.
And, regardless how you feel about them, I know there's a lot of great guys in the FBI, a lot of great gals in the FBI, but there is a stand that you got to make. There's orders that are out there, but if it's unlawful orders and it's going against, there's a moral compass that you have to have. Is this something that you want to stay with? Is this something that you want to be with? I know
Can you subscribe to this?
Exactly. I know a lot of people in law enforcement all the way through that decided to retire because of these things happening, because of the political nature, the weaponizing. And it's a hard situation. These people have families, they have kids, they have this is their livelihood. And sometimes they're put in a bad situation where they have these orders they have to carry out, and they know that these orders that they're carrying out is completely bogus. It will not, to them it's bogus, and to the media right now, even the media is saying, you got to release all this information. We have to know more about this. Why did it happen? Because it's so egregious.
Yeah, you're actually just kind of walked into the question that I had. Because of your background as a CIA, it's agent, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, because it's not officer. I researched this, and Secret Service, and I mean, it's law enforcement at the highest level. So I was on the board, the Community Police Advisory Board for the LAPD for 5 years. And I became friends with a lot of officers. And I would be like an ear, they'd bend my ear as to command staff issues. That's not what they signed up for. They would hear that a lot. This is not what I signed up for. I took an oath. And then, of course, we had the pandemic, and it was so hard for many of them, because at the time I was in Los Angeles, and the mayor was sending the police around to shut down businesses. And it went against their moral compass and their oath. And so because you have been there, done that, what's the conflict? I'm trying to imagine the FBI rolling up on Mar-a-Lago, and Trump's Secret Service is there. Like, how does that go down?
It's hard. I mean, you have two law enforcement agencies, with two different missions. One is to protect and not let anyone in because it is the president's residence. And then you got the FBI there serving a warrant. Now, they're going to comply Secret Service because the president's not in. If the president was there, it's a whole different story. That they're not allowing access. They're not allowing him to come in because their main goal is the safety of the president. At that time, president's not there. It's a different story. But nevertheless, anytime you have two agencies coming together and they both have weapons, you're adding weapons into this where it didn't have to. Didn't have to be such a showboat. Though that information, if they wanted that information, they could have asked for that information and retrieved it without this big, circus parade going down there and making it a big to do. It just shows a level of use that they're doing to highlight certain things, to try to make this more political in nature. It takes away the ability of the FBI to have credibility. It takes away from their true mission. The true mission of the FBI is not to go after not a sitting president right now, but out of office president. That's not their mission. Their mission is to go ahead and go after crime. We have a border that is open,
wide open,
drugs coming straight through. I think there's a lot other things that the FBI can be doing and should be doing with our tax dollars than going after a former president.
You're right. And I was thinking about this recently because back months ago, maybe a year ago, I did a couple videos called The Science of Propaganda. And I based them on a book I read by Edward Bernays that was written, I think, around 1928. And so he really was the reason or the precursor to the public relations industry's inception. And his book Propaganda was born out of being Freud's nephew and protege, learning all the tools and seeing the techniques and the results that Freud was getting, kind of repatterning his clients that had issues, that had mental health issues or emotional health issues. And so, Edward said, okay, I can monetize this. Let me just produce this book of how to use the nervous system of the human mind, what we see, hear, feel, both tactile and intuit, taste and smell. Let me use the colors and the shapes and the right narrative and messaging and sell this to make my fortune. And he did very well. He sold it to Procter and Gamble. He sold it to the government of Venezuela. Mm-hmm. He sold it to the banks. And thus was born the public relations industry of branding. And I worked in the radio industry for 6 years. It's all about, we called it impressions when we were selling airtime. And what we would do is we would measure how many impressions, meaning how many adverts needed to run over what day parts, meaning times of day, at what frequency, over what length of time, days and weeks and months, in order for that product that was being advertised to reach higher sales volume. And so with that said, what are your thoughts on this raid being a mind control tactic to squash the masses into fear and submission?
It definitely is. When you start looking at what's happening with the federal government and to go into what's the Inflation Reduction Act, adding 87,000 personnel to the IRS. That is more now than the State Department, the FBI, and the Border Patrol combined.
That's a small city.
And exactly. And so you're adding that. Also, you're adding billions of dollars, $80 billion to their budget. Also, the FBI has been arming themselves. So now you have special agents that are armed. They've added 21.3 million since 2006 to 2009 buying weapons, ammo, and military style equipment. What are they doing with that? And when asked, 51% of all audits last year were to people making $75,000 or less.
Wow.
So who do you think that's going to be attacked with that? I mean, the IRS under Barack Obama with Lois Lerner already targeted the Tea Party because they wanted to. I mean, simply because they wanted to audit them. The IRS has the ability to go in, to audit you, to put lien on your bank accounts, seize everything, freeze everything. It's kind of exact opposite. In law, it's innocent until proven guilty. With the IRS, you're guilty until it's proven otherwise.
Sure.
But you're going to have to pay tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees for the IRS to say, okay, well, there's nothing here anymore. You literally go bankrupt.
Yeah, for sure. I see the picture you're painting. So I'm curious about the passports, because isn't that something where a judge has to command or do a legal order that says you have to turn in your passport? Can law enforcement just like pull your passport?
So law enforcement, so it's a government issued anything like passports, even the presidential passport was a diplomatic passport. That was given. It was set to expire. It's kind of given. I have an expired diplomatic passport that has a big hole through it, but it's a souvenir that you keep.
Sure.
It's normally not taken. These are unprecedented times, taking that kind of stuff. And on top of that, the only time you actually pull someone's passport in a criminal case, if there's a flight risk.
Sure.
Where is the former president of the United States going to go fly to? He's not a flight risk. He's not going to all of a sudden put, a set of glasses on and mustache and be someone else. It's just not happening.
It would ruin the comb over.
Exactly. On top of that, he has Secret Service detail or federal agents with him all the time. So, and this is not even a criminal case. This is just retrieving National Archive material. So it's unprecedented to even do those things. But what it does? It sends a message out there. It sends a message that nobody, like Merrick Garland said, nobody's untouchable. And we've given our bureaucracies so much power, so much leeway just to do anything which is unchecked, that we've developed this ourselves. This is something that's been going around it's been developed. I mean, this just didn't happen. It was a slippery slope. Once you allow it to happen, take small baby steps, it just builds up, builds up, builds up.
Yeah, where there's more and more reach that just happens. And it's like the frog. What's that story about the frog boiling in the pot? You put the frog in cold water in the pot, and you turn on the stove and don't even realize it's happening till they're dead, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly what we're doing. And the founding fathers knew about this. That's why the states were supposed to be running themselves. They were supposed to be strong. The federal government was supposed to be for the national interest, to protect the country in the national interest, not to do this kind of stuff. It's unprecedented. And we've given so much power to the federal government that it's stripping our power as people. I mean, it goes into what's happening with the school boards, with taking over our kids' education. And now the parents are pretty much told, you have no say. In Loudoun County, Virginia, they had a huge, if you recall, a huge controversy with the DOJ and FBI doing searches on parents, investigating parents that were complaining about the Loudoun County.
Criminalizing it. So I have so many questions for you. I want to get into a little bit of first I have this question, and then I want to get into the mindset of a law enforcement individual. So when it comes to a raid in say Florida, and Ron DeSantis is governor, is there any power there to protect his citizens from this kind of stuff?
Currently, right now, FBI and DOJ, they could do whatever they want. I mean, they have it. There are recourses that the state government can do through the legal means. But if the FBI comes in, they have federal authority to come across any state and do whatever they need to do. That's an overreach. There's the combination between the state, the cooperation between states, depending on the state, like a state like Florida, has been eroded. There's no lack of trust. So can the FBI go into a state and fulfill whatever warrant that they have? Yes, they can. It's after the fact where the Florida state could really go in there and do something, but they have no obligation to tell the state of Florida what they're doing.
It's fascinating. Years ago, I read this book by one of my mentors, Stuart Wilde, and the name of the book was Whispering Winds of Change.
Mm-hmm.
And in that book, sorry, I have a motorcycle going by.
That's all right.
Yeah. In that book, he talks about the demise of the American government. And he basically made a prediction that it would break down to the point where each state would be run by its own government. And it kind of starts to look the way we have things so divided, for the last couple of years, where there's been fallout within the Governors Association of where they just don't talk to each other. They don't collaborate or discuss things because they're on opposite sides of the fence. And that leads me to a question I have for you. So you're in law enforcement, whatever level you are, you take an oath, and then you're given orders to do something that goes against that oath. How does one on a personal level reconcile themselves with that?
It's hard. It's hard. You're looking at your career. There's orders that get passed down that you have to do. Do you have to do it? No, you don't. Do you know the ramifications if you don't? Yes, very much so. There's a bureaucracy within every federal government. It's called middle management, sitting right there, right below the director. There's this bureaucracy sitting right there. And that is an area where a lot of political moves are made or decisions are made. These, the men and women on the front line, they work hard, but they know the ramifications. If they don't follow something, they're not going to get promoted. They're going to be put on suspension, for anything, and they're going to be looked at. They're pretty much their days are numbered. You're making this hard for them. And how do you reconcile with that? Is there a lot of people willing to give up their career for something like that? And now you go into, how much is enough?
Exactly.
The moral compass, can I do this anymore? Yeah, it's a hard decision. Those FBI agents on the ground having to execute, we're talking about the men and women at the lower level having to execute this thing. They may have views one way or the other. I don't know what their views are, but, ones that didn't agree with it, they have to live with that. They have to reconcile that with themselves. Now they can look at this as, okay, well, this is a singular event. It's just getting, some stuff and really means nothing. But if you start deep diving into this, all these small things equal a lot. It's kind of,
right.
The broken windows theory up in New York. You take care of all the little stuff, all the big stuff starts cleaning up. If you let those little things happen, then bigger things happen.
It's true.
It's exactly what's happening. It happens with kids. It happens with everything. You let the little things slide, it becomes bigger things. And then you take a step back and you say, how did we get here? It's because we allowed this to happen. That slippery slope, we allowed us to move into this direction. And these people that are doing it, they have their own political agenda. It's hard to say. There are a lot of, as much as people say in the government, I try to say apolitical. There's a lot of political judgment going along, especially when you get to a certain level and you start feeling that you know better than the politicians. The way I look at it and the way I've always looked at it, and a lot of people on the front line looks at it, is we protect the institution, not a person. Mm. And so when I look at this for the people in the Secret Service, for the FBI, you're serving an institution, not a person. And right. This institution, is whatever you're doing, it has to be good for the country based upon what the founding fathers made, which is the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Now, that's how I reconcile everything I do. Now, I implore, if there's law enforcement sitting out here and really thinking about what to do, Side with the Constitution, side with the Bill of Rights. Until that is changed, that is where we lie. That's the same thing with the military. The military is supposed to defend and support the Constitution of the United States against terrorism, domestic or overseas. We are here and we serve the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which serves all the people of the nation. And so until that is changed and amended, that's your doc. If it goes against that, then there's other things that you should be doing internally. You're trying to make those changes. Step up.
Yeah. Well, and then you're singled out. So it really needs to be, there needs to be enough of a tipping point, like in Malcolm Gladwell's book, and he talks about the tipping point. He was saying that the Beatles, when the Beatles made it, their tipping point was 10,000 hours. He hypothesizes that with 10,000 hours of new behavior, then boom, like you blow up like the Beatles did. And so what would be the tipping point within law enforcement in this country to uphold the institution, not whoever's in the command staff calling the shots?
So what everyone can do, there's a system within every agency. It's the equal opportunity, equal employment. There are ways that you can, if you decide not to do something that is against your oath, against what the Constitution of the United States, how you feel, you don't have to do it. Now you can take it up the actual human resources way and file a complaint, an EEO complaint on there that you're making there.
But then aren't you ostracized?
You are. But the more people that end up doing these things, the stronger you get. I mean, leadership is only as strong as the people that are willing to follow.
100%.
If the people are not willing to follow them, the leadership has no strength. We gave them that strength. So I've always said this in leadership. There's never bad people. There's not bad employees. It's bad leaders.
Always.
And what continues a company down that route is because we're just continuously following them. We're allowing this to happen. So if we change
the apathy is unbelievable.
Yeah, but a lot of times now people just don't want to deal with it
because it's a heavy burden.
It's definitely a heavy burden,
but taking an oath is a burden of position.
It completely is. When you put on that badge, when you have that oath, when you took that mantle and say, "I want to protect this country," there's a heavy burden you put upon yourself. And it's a burden that even the people in the military, we do accountability of ourselves. That's the reason why we have one of the best and strongest militaries out there, is because this is a service that is volunteer. Everyone goes into it. And people in the military do not go into it because of the money. They go into it because the level of service they want to give. They feel something connected with the country and what it means. I say that same thing with the federal agencies. Look at what you're doing. Why did you do this job? If it doesn't fit, then you need to stand up. You got to make a change. And yes, it is scary. If you're doing it by yourself, it is scary, but it's a ripple effect. If one voice screams out, another voice will back you up, and another 100%. Another one. And what are you going to have? If you have a complete, turnaround from the working part of, say, the FBI against their management, calling them out, it strips their power, strips the management's power to be able to do these things.
And it works every time. I've turned around companies by getting the lower echelon of employees to come together.
Yeah.
And we did it from the inside out. I have a question. Why did you become a Marine?
Well, so that is, I was kind of lost in everything I was doing. And I kind of wanted a little bit more direction for myself. And the funny thing is, so my dad comes from a Navy background, and the history of the Marine Corps is Department of Navy. And so when I went into the Marine Corps, I went to the recruiter station. I said, I'm ready to sign up. I wanted more direction. I decided to go with them because the most honor comes with them. They said, okay, what would you like to do? I said, I want to be a corpsman. They took me right over to the Navy side, said, hey, you need to sign up over here, and then you can come on over here. I didn't know that. So I signed up as a corpsman, went straight to the Marines and spent my whole career with them. So I had to literally go through 2 boot camps. But the reason why I wanted to go with them was because there's a level of pride that exists through and through. And it's a badge of honor to be there, to earn it. And you have to earn it. And everyone over there earns it. Now, out of all the services that I see, and all the services have a level of dedication, but you don't see the same level of dedication through and through as you do with the Marine Corps as a whole. The Marine Corps as a whole, it's your livelihood. Yeah. That is who you are. That's the makeup. And you learn these morals. You learn these values that no matter what, you are here to uphold the Constitution of the United States and serve the people. It's one of the most honorable things for me to be, with and to have and to carry with me. It's laid the foundation of everything I've done, everything I am. It lays the foundation of it.
I'm sure. And that obviously shows up in being a father and having a foster son and just everything you've done. We've got 4 minutes left. So we want to, drill this down.
Yeah.
And I have a question. You don't have to answer it immediately. You can answer it at the end. But what can we do to turn this? Because I don't believe that we're crumbling or falling apart. I refuse to believe that. Definitely there's issues. My mom always used to say, it always gets worse before it gets better. And I never understood that saying, but I think I'm kind of living it now, where things are just like in our faces. And so as a citizen, what can we be doing? First of all, what can we be thinking? How can we be treating each other? And then what can we be doing?
Well, that's an easy question to answer right now. First off, what you should be doing is look at the pride of the United States. We single-handedly, and you could say, U.S. pompous or whatnot. I heard that all the time overseas. But we're the only country in a short amount of time that we actually existed compared to all the other countries to provide so much for the world, as far as technology, as far as human rights, as far as everything. We're still a very young country compared to Britain, Australia, all these other places. So first, what I say is have pride in what we are. This is who we are. You should never turn a blind eye. You should never look at it. It's like, United States isn't that great. No, we are. And be proud of it. Yeah. Second to that is we need to look at the Constitution for what it is. We need to read that Constitution, read the Bill of Rights, understand what the founding fathers, framers of this country was trying to do. They're trying to make something that was unheard of and still unheard of right now. We're the last beacon of hope out there.
We're the outlier.
Exactly. And then the third thing you need to do is stand up.
Yeah.
Stand up for these things. Right now, we have senators and congressmen that have been doing this for years. They went to law school, went right into politics. Never really had a job, never really been part of the community, and they're making this astronomical amount with no experience, and they're not giving back to the community. So I say, get involved. We need people that have true life experience to take that mantle and run for Congress, run for Senate, run for your local office, do these little things. Run for school boards, definitely. You don't need to be a teacher to run. Anyone can run for these school boards as council. Anyone can run for it. Take an active approach in the communities. Take an active approach in the cities. Take an active approach in the states. Take an active approach in the federal government. Hold people accountable and then replace them. We have to vote. We have to do it right. And I know there's controversies about the voting system and everything, but if we do it right and we start from the bottom up and start cleaning ourselves up, just like the broken windows analogy, right? Take care of the little things, the big things fix itself. Take care of the little things in your local community, the big things will fix itself. It's a ripple effect. And
Yeah.
like you said, when you were working with that company, and the way you change them is you work with the line officers, line employees right there, the lowest level employees,
Yeah.
and you fix it from the bottom up.
Had to.
That's what we're going to do. That's the only way we're going to do it. I'm not talking, there's no need for armed insurrections. There's nothing like that. All we got to do is fix the little things. It starts at home with the kids. It starts in your communities. It starts for representing. Don't put your head in the sand. Understand what's going on in your community and take an active approach.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that, don't be so individualistic and become neighborly again.
Yes, definitely.
Right? Go drop off some muffins at a neighbor that you never see. Like, just do and I know that sounds a little absurd because we're all busy, but growing up on a farm, if we needed to put up a grain bin or build a barn, or if we had problems with machinery and a crop had to come off because we were in a time crunch, people showed up. Even people that didn't like each other would go and take the crop off for that person. And then they'd be at argument again after the fact. But they'd show up and they'd support each other because it was for the good of the whole of humanity. What we do for others, we're really doing for ourselves, because we're all connected. There's no disconnect between us, and there's no disconnect between being a law enforcement officer or an IRS officer or boots on the ground, like raising kids in a little apartment somewhere. What you do to others, you are inflicting upon yourself. There is a big, big, big picture here.
There is. And also starts with our local churches. Get back into the churches.
Yeah.
I mean, bring that faith back.
That's right.
And that ties into giving towards, love thy neighbor, giving towards your neighbors, understanding them, talking
Be
to
kind.
them. We can have differences between ourselves as far as the way we feel we should go around to solve certain problems in the world. There's a billion ways to skin a cat. That's what I tell people.
It's a horrible analogy.
Yeah, well,
I love cats.
I didn't make it up. So,
I know, I'm teasing you.
but there's a million and one ways to do something, and your way of doing it may not be my way of doing it, but it's still trying to accomplish the same goal.
Yeah.
Now, we don't have to go and fight with each other or ridicule or say my way is the best way and that's it. Let's be neighborly. Let's just have a common purpose and then listen to each other and move forward. That all stems from the teaching of God, right? It does.
Finding your points of connection.
Yes.
Maybe you don't agree on things, but what do you agree on? Focus on the positive, and then do things together toward that point of connection. And it'd be surprising how your differences kind of just dissolve. So
it definitely does.
We're out of time. We're 3 minutes over. Any parting thoughts?
No. Like I said, just get involved.
Absolutely. Get involved on a local level. Well, thank you, Anthony, for being here again today. I really appreciate you coming back on. And I'm definitely going to have you back because I think this thing's going to unfold even more. So,
I think so too.
Right. So for everybody that's watching, I appreciate you being here today for this doubleheader special edition. And remember, God bless America with liberty and justice for all. Stay awake, stay aligned, and especially stay alert.
Yeah.